Hello athletes and welcome to another video. This week, gratitude in sport and Training Peaks versus Strava. So one of the challenges of being a triathlon coach is that sometimes you have to be the scientist and all data driven and specific and detailed. And on the other side, sometimes you have to be the psychologist or the mentor or the friend, employing some of the soft skills, both with the intention of improving an athlete's performance. So I thought it might be interesting to do a video where we look at two different areas, one on the science side and one on the soft skills side. So this first science section is inspired by a question that came to me on Facebook from Edinburgh Triathletes member Simon Nichols, and he asks, why is there so much difference between the Strava, Fresh and fitness curves and the Training Peaks performance management chart? And Simon goes on to say that in his case, Strava shows a steady decrease in fitness since March, but while Training Peaks is showing a steady increase in his fitness. Well, I think that there are a few factors at play, and just for transparency's sake, so I use Strava and Training Peaks. I do my analysis on Training Peaks WKO software and don't use all of Strava's premium features, but have dived into this, and I think these are the reasons. Number one, so the two systems use two different algorithms, and that alone is probably enough to produce a difference in the data that they ultimately give you. But I think there are a few more significant factors to consider. So number two is that the Strava system, if you change your FTP, it retrospectively changes all of your historic cycling data, whereas on Training Peaks, you can update your FTP for certain time periods, resetting it at the start of the season, updating it as you get fitter through the year without it changing all of your previous data. That's going to make a huge difference to the ultimate data that it gives you again. Number three is to do with the quality of data. So it seems that Strava might use average power rather than normalized power to assess the training load of a bike session. Normalized power is a much better indication of the training load rather than just average power, and so that's going to reduce the quality. But apparently also Strava don't pay the rights to download all of the data or data of such high quality, and so that means that things like swimming isn't logged as part of the stress score on Strava. Similarly, strength and conditioning isn't either, and so that's going to throw off the numbers even more. Finally, with zones, you can set your heart rate zone on Strava, but you can only set one lot of heart rate zones for biking and running, and bike and running heart rate zones are different. So whereas on Training Peaks you can do those two things separately so that the data is more accurate when it comes to recognizing how stressful a session was or wasn't, on Strava you could easily accidentally over or underestimate the stress score from a particular session just because of that one factor alone. Ultimately though, the whole use of Strava and Training Peaks bring up a kind of interesting coaching, maybe psychology, attitude point, I'm not sure, that I see. And that is, people look at those two things and they might go, oh, Strava says I'm less fit, but Training Peaks says I'm more fit. Which am I? And they're looking at these two kind of theoretical systems to inform how fit they are. Now, I would urge you as athletes to be more introspective in how you assess your fitness. So you will have a really good gauge on how fit you are. So always try and have a think about the training you've done, an honest reflection of how fit you know you are, maybe based on more simple data, simply like a 5K time or an FTP test. And then you can look at the data that you have in Strava, Training Peaks or any other system and recognize which one is best representing the shape that you know that you're in. Hopefully that might be the way to assess most accurately your current fitness or form. So our second topic of the day is from the more soft skills and mentoring side of things. And some of you will know that I am a mentor on a charity called the True Athlete Project's Global Mentoring Program. That basically means that I help younger athletes to think about their sport and the pressures of a high performance sporting environment more healthily. And so one of the things that we've done recently with them is looking at gratitude reflection. Sounds really woolly, but works incredibly well. So it's a little 4-stage process, which is dead simple, and it'll hopefully help you to focus on the positive aspects of your sport rather than the negatives, especially when any negative emotions come in. So grab a pen and paper. We're going to go through those 4 stages now. So what I'd like you to do is to think about 3 different bits of your training that have gone well in the last week or that you're grateful for. They can be anything, and you don't even have to come up with 3. If you don't, just 1 but 2 is absolutely fine. Now the first thing you're going to do is you're going to give each of those a title. So it might be something like Beautiful Morning Ride. So having come up with a headline or title for each of the things that you're grateful for or that went well, you're now going to flesh them out a little bit and you're going to tell the story of those. So write down some details about those events. What went on? What sights and sounds were there? Bring it alive a little bit. Make it really vivid. That's your second stage. And now we'll move on to stage 3. So having come up with a title and then having fleshed out the detail of some of those things that went well for you this week or that you're grateful for, the third thing is to take a moment to think about the feelings that you had in those moments and also the feelings you have now as you reflect back on them. So again, grab your pen and paper and note that down. The fourth and final phase is simply to have a think about how did that moment come about? What went into it? What caused it to be? So again, have a little think about how you arrived in that situation and note that down, and we'll reflect further in a moment. So now that we've reflected on our 4 stages of our 1, 2 or 3 points of gratitude, the application of this is it's something to be used when negative emotions just come in and start to cloud the pleasure that we normally derive from our sport. And a good example of this is maybe to go back to our glorious morning ride. So we've given it our title and then we fleshed that out. It was a lovely morning. The roads were clear. We felt fit. Sun was high in the sky. There wasn't much wind. And our feelings were just one of sort of joy and peace and all of those things. And then we reflect on why that came about, and maybe it came about because you took the incentive to actually get up and get out and do something that maybe when the alarm went off you didn't want to do. Now the reminder there is that next time the alarm goes off and you feel like you don't want to go out on that ride, it's a case of thinking, well, maybe I'm not going out on a ride, maybe I'm going out for a dose of that joy or that peace or that relaxation, and being grateful for that and really engaging with it reminds you that you can have that again if you want to at a later date, if that's how you reframe and rethink the session that you've got coming. Now that gratitude reflection is something that can be used just in general life, it can be used in your working life, in your personal life as well. But what it does is it captures the moments of life before they just whiz by. And if we can capture the moments of life, the more we capture, the better life seems and the more grateful that we'll be for it. And then we start an upward spiral that can help us feel really positively about our life, our work and our sport. So hopefully you found that useful. Please feel free to put any comments below and I'll try to respond to those whenever I can. There'll be another video next week, so I look forward to seeing you then.